The bench at the end of the world. Old age comes as a slow frost. He sits on a bench at the cold edge of morning in a landscape emptied of colour, and the world shrinks to the size of his own breath. The wood beneath him is frozen. The sky is a grey lid. No birds, only wind moving through brittle branches. He remembers a time when he walked without effort. Now every step is a negotiation, every breath a small transaction with the cold. The path seems longer than it used to be, as if the world stretches itself in the night to make his journey harder. He sits and stares into the grey morning mist, and the mind, unbidden, turns back. In the dim fog of memory, certain moments stand as milestones. Reflecting back, he looks at his past life, the story of a long journey that began when he was young, when he walked without effort, when life did not yet seem a story nearing its end. Then, life and youth felt endless. He dreamed as others dreamed, but more fiercely. He launched himself on an intellectual and philosophical odyssey, climbed mountains in his mind, made bold journeys through thought, drank the wisdom of the sages as if it were clear water. His intellect was a fire that consumed everything it touched: metaphysics, ethics, the stars, the nature of reason itself. He did not count the seasons, he only moved through them. Death and disease were distant rumours, old people's afflictions, things that happened in other houses, to other families. He saw loss, yes, but death as his own impending fact lay in a far-off future that had nothing to do with him. He was immortal in the way the young are immortal, not because he believed it consciously, but because he could not truly imagine the end of his own consciousness. But now he knows better. Everything has a price. In the long project of thinking, of hoping, of building systems that would outlast him, he paid by getting older. The body that once seemed so reliable now forgets how. The mind that once ran ahead into the future now lingers in the past, sifting through the process which has brought him to sit here and reflect. His long blonde hair greying at the temples, the handsome face now furrowed by weather and worry. The eyes that once saw only promise now see the fine print of decline. And this is not just his story. Everything around him, the bare trees, the hidden birds, the animals whose tracks cross the snow, grows up, matures, and dies. The trees stand in their winter death sleep, but they will leaf again in spring. He will not. The birds that have flown south will return. The young man who once dreamed in this landscape will not. This is not self-pity. It is the plain arithmetic of nature, the one law to which there is no exception. And he thinks of form. The self he once called his own is not a fixed thing. He understood this once, in abstraction, a concept he liked. Now he understands it in his bones. The body is not the self. He knows this now because he has watched it change without his will. He did not choose these changes. They happened to him, or rather, they happened to this body, which is not him, which was never him. It is an arrangement, a temporary gathering, flesh, bone, breath, sensation, held together for a while. What he called I was only a pattern, and patterns dissolve. This is not comfort exactly, but it is true. From this frozen grey place, he stares into the nature of things, into his own extinction. And he sees himself as part of a family, seeing death stalking in regular fashion and with lethal precision. He himself saw 2 generations of his family, his village, disappear right in front of his eyes into the mists of darkness. He is no exception, rather part of a long procession. Others before him who were born, grew up, lived with passionate hope that they mattered. They made love, raised children, buried their dead, and believed, in spite of all evidence, that they had the centre stage to judge living and dead, that they were part of the procession. But the names of most are gone. Their houses are dust. Their books are ash. Their descendants do not know their faces. He asks, did they live and think and struggle for nothing? Did their love and labour vanish like breath on a winter morning? The world gives no answer, only the sound of wind. Perhaps the question is wrong. Perhaps living and thinking and struggling were themselves the point, even if no one remembers. But from this bench, in this cold, it is hard to believe that. The silence after the question is the only response. He thinks of all past places, all time and space coordinates, his versions of himself as different time slices, and how all exists only in memory, an entire consciousness spread out across time. He remembers himself at various points in the past when he felt in possession of his idea of now, but the idea of now kept on shifting across time, and now he had this idea that this was his now. Where have all his past nows gone? He imagines extinction, his own now, as the sands run low and hint that the end is near. He is becoming old, not young. The cold wind from the Baltic touches his once youthful face, now lined, and ruffles his grey hair. He feels the inner void, the darkness, the loss of hope, the grief for the wider world around him. The world is no longer a stage for his ambitions. It is a vast, indifferent theatre where his small part is nearly played out. The audience has gone home. The lights are dimming. Only he remains on the stage, looking out at empty seats. This is the quiet end of the film. The story of his life is entering its final sequence, and the pain is multiplied by awareness, that gift of a thinking mind which has become a curse. It awakens at last, not to joy, but to the truth of impermanence, to the full knowledge of what it means to be a temporary arrangement of matter that happened, for a while, to think and feel and hope. The awakening is cold. It offers no comfort, but it is real. But perhaps that is the only immortality available, to have been part of the procession at all, to have added one small verse to the long, unfinished poem of human existence. The poem is not about him, but he is in it. His verse will be forgotten, as will the verses of almost everyone who ever lived. Yet the poem continues, the language changes, the metaphors shift, but the act of speaking, of remembering, of hoping, that does not end. He sits until the grey mist thickens and the cold numbs his fingers. The snow begins again, softly at first, then heavier. Soon the landscape will be smooth and white. He rises, slowly, painfully, and begins the walk back. The wind follows him. The snow falls on his grey hair. The cold settles in his chest. But he is still walking. That too is something. That too is life. Not the golden dawn he once imagined, but a grey morning in a desolate landscape, and a bench behind him, and a path ahead, and the small, stubborn fact of his own breathing.